My name is Pokanoket, which means running bear in English.
And we want to make sure that people know that program is sponsored by the Rhode Island Council on the Humanities.
Before we ever use the drum, we always pray on the drum. We use tobacco. It's not this, we don't condone cigarette smoking, but we use tobacco in a lot of our ceremonies. So what we do is we raise our hand and we pray to our Creator. And then we sprinkle the tobacco on the drum. All the drummers and singers will do that, and they have already done that. We believe that when we beat the drum, all those prayers go up to our Creator. And I'm going to do that too. And we're going to say a prayer. We have our hand on the men's back so that we're all connected to the drum, and they have their hands on the drum. Aho. So we're saying aho. We say aho and we agree with what was said. We agree with the prayer. This is a song that we always sing when we first start drumming. Tavatne uche, and we'll start.
Thank you for the sky. Thank you for the water and the rock. Thank you for the trees and just for today. Please say I thank you. Please say I thank you. Hey, 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 oh. Upon a wood chest, upon a wood chest, take one a cry. Upon a wood chest, one day a gun. Cause I like the body, cause I like the body. Hey, 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 oh. Thank you for the earth sky. Thank you for the water and the rock. Thank you for the trees just for today. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, hey, hey.
The Sagamore is the head of all the chiefs of the tribe. He's also the superior chief of the Fauna Federation, which is a federation of 11 tribes over the East Coast. So he's going to talk to you a little bit about our tribe.
It's a pleasure to be here today. Tanishka, that's hello, hi in my language. My name is Po Wa'opi Neopok, and I am the Sagamore of the Council 7 Royal House Pokanoket tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. So I am the Sagamore of the tribe, but I am also the Sagamore of the nation. I am the Sagamore of the affiliated tribes of New England, and I am the Superior Chief of Fauna, which is a federation of Aboriginal Nations of America, and that's what she was talking about, Fauna. I am the 10th generation great-grandson of the Massasoit Osamiquin, who welcomed the Pilgrims to this country. I'm the 9th generation great-grandson of King Philip, Po-Metacom, King Philip. That's what you know him as probably historically. I am the 6th generation great-grandson of Simeon Simons. And Simeon Simons was a George Washington hand-picked bodyguard. Now, when George Washington came through Patchogue, Connecticut, Simeon Simons was out there wrestling with all his men. He called them in, he wanted to know who he was. And he took him, my line is a closed book. He couldn't talk about it because it was Pokanoket. A lot of people they've never heard of Pokanoket. But Pokanoket was the name of this country here that you're living in, Soams. At that time, until the King Philip War, 1675, 1676, this was all known as Pokanoket country or King Philip country. At that time, the colonial government made it illegal for you to say that you were Pokanoket, and if you were male 14 years of age or older, and you said you were Pokanoket, they'd kill you on sight. So that's when they start calling us Wampanoag. Wampanoag is a nation. It's not a tribe, it's a nation. Pokanoket Nation, Pokanoket, the star that you see for the people of the first light, well, that was originally the Pokanoket star before it was a Wampanoag. There would be no Wampanoag without Pokanoket. So basically what I'm telling you is that this guy here, why I tell you about Simeon Simon, this is my great-grandfather, 6th generation. This is George Washington's hand-picked bodyguard. He called him in, he wanted to know who he was because he was pinning all his men. And he went that day with George Washington, became a Continental soldier. He received the pension from the United States government as a Continental soldier. And he was with George Washington at Valley Forge. He was with them crossing the Delaware. The Indian in the boat that you see with George Washington is my great-grandfather, Simeon Simon, 6th generation. This is King Philip's great-grandson. That's why I'm telling you. A lot of people don't realize how vast our land was, you know, the extent of where it went to. Our territories went all the way up to New York State. Schaghticoke Falls, this side of the Hudson River. Southern Vermont and southern New Hampshire. That's why during the King Philip War, Metacomet was up there with Connaught, one of the chiefs of Narragansett during the winter campaign. He was right up there at Schaghticoke Falls, this side of the Hudson River. You go up to New Hampshire, Mount Monadnock, you find the King Philip Trail. If that belonged to some other chief, don't you think they would have named it after that chief? But that was our territory. Now, you're probably saying, well, why were we up in that area? The Master Sawyer was married to the Queen of the Nipmunks. He was married to Nanawanhat's daughter. And Nanawanhat was the grand sachem of the Quabog Nipmunk Nation. And in the year 2005, did we do that? We did a celebration with the town of Brookfield, Mass, North Brookfield, West Brookfield, Mass. And that's Nipmunk territory. And we sent out a delegation up there from our tribe. The Nipmunks are up there. And they wanted to know who we were. So we told them, we're the descendants of the Master Sawyer. Well, they knew the history. Because if you look at the history, it'll tell you that the Master Sawyer was the acknowledged head of that Nipmunk, that Quabog Nipmunk Nation. So that's why our territory was all the way up there. And we don't talk about the white buffalo in our heritage. We talk about the three mountains. And the three mountains that we talk about, there's this mountain that you call Mount Hope. We call that Patumtuck. The Patumtuck at one time was the highest point in Rhode Island. They took they took about 75 to 100 feet off of that during the 50s. They made a Nike site up there, a guided missile site. I don't know if you know that, but basically that's what they did. But we used to send smoke signals from Patumtuck, which means lookout of Pokanoket, to Mount Wachusett in Massachusetts, to Mount Monadnock up in New Hampshire. And I'm not a storyteller, and I'm not even a historian of the tribe, right? But my daughter is a storyteller, the sachem here. But we talk about the three mountains in our history, and basically we're talking about Patumtuck, which is the mountain of the past. Wachusett is the mountain of the present, and Mount Monadnock in New Hampshire is the mountain of the future. Right? Just like to tell you a little bit about why we start off with that song, Tabati Wuche. We're thanking our Creator. That's what we're doing. That's what that song is. Thank you. That's why we're singing in English. Thank you for all the trees in the sky. When the first expedition to these territories within the Pokanoket realm was by a Portuguese captain named Miguel Cordeiro in 1502. And then about in 1524, Giovanni Ferrazzano came into Narragansett Bay to Mount Hope Bay, and he recorded in his log a latitude of 41 degrees 40 north, which put him right parallel to the seat of Philip. He wasn't Narragansett there, he was right here in Mount Hope Bay. And, you know, you'll hear people say, well, they were the first contact people. No, it was right here in Mount Bay, according to his longitude and latitude, because if you take that over there, it's different, Narragansett Bay. And he wrote in his log about the inhabitants that he saw on shore here, and he was saying they were the most goodliest people I've ever seen. This is what, I've never heard that word goodliest before, but that's the word he used in his log, and he was saying that they were always raising their hand to the Creator and thanking the Creator. And so this is why we start off with the Bande Bucci and keeping with that tradition. If we don't start off with a song of thanking the Creator, then we'll pray thanking the Creator. But we are a tribe that is very grateful for all that the Creator has done for us. All right, because you're not promised tomorrow. Okay. Well, Simeon Simon, he is also on the bicentennial coin of the town of Griswold, Connecticut. On the other side is the seal of the town of Griswold, Connecticut. And that was 200 years as a country. In the year 1976, the town of Griswold honored my mother's family, the Simon Wheaton line, and they minted that coin, and I was at that time presented to people in our family. And do you remember Princess Redwing? Yeah. Yes, okay. That's my mother's first cousin. In order to be a chief in the Pokanoket tribe, because this is the headship, Pokanoket was the headship tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. And when the Pilgrims came here, the Massasoit Osamika who welcomed them to this country, and actually it wasn't him, it was Samoset, a Sagamore from the Abenaki Nation, which is in Maine now, but at that time that was Massachusetts. And he met the Pilgrims with welcome Englishmen, and they were shocked to find someone here that spoke their language. And he told them, he says, well, I know someone that speaks the language even better than I do. And he went and he got Tisquantum. You probably know him better as Squanto. And he came back with the Massasoit Osamequin. And Massasoit is a title. It means great leader. And he was a great leader of the largest Indian nation in colonial America. There was no nation larger than the Pokanoket Nation. And if you look up any map prior to the King Philip War, it will say right on it, Pokanoket country. You won't see any Wampanoag on there at all. The first 50 years of encounters with the European, the word is not written. Wampanoag is not written anywhere. It was never spoken, and they never even heard of it. Wampanoag is actually a name that was reserved for the natives that fought against the colonists with King Philip. So that if you weren't in that King Philip War, then you don't even have the right to call yourself Wampanoag. But there are tribes that call themselves Wampanoag that weren't even tribes in that day. And one of them would be Mashpee. There was no Mashpee tribe during the King Philip War. You look at the history. I don't know I'm not the historian either. I'm just the chief. But there was no Mashpee tribe. I think the tribe of Mashpee was named the Sargonuts or something. I have to look at that information again. I keep forgetting. But there were people that were on a reservation in Mashpee, and they got that reservation because they stayed out of the war. But they weren't just Indians on that reservation. There were whites on that reservation. There were blacks on that reservation, and people from different tribes. So we don't know, they call themselves Mashpee because they were in Mashpee. And that's how they, but that's a little history about the Wampanoag. But now you have the Chappaquiddick Wampanoag. You have the Sonic Wampanoag. You have the Nemasket Wampanoag. They have the right to call themselves Wampanoag. All right? And so basically, that's just a little bit of history, and I'm gonna give this up, and I can come back and give you a little bit more history.
We're gonna play a little music for you, some drumming, and then Dancing Star is our storyteller. She's gonna tell a story.
Yo,
Okay. I am Pokanoket. That means dancing star of Pokanoket. I am the sachem of Pokanoket, but I'm also the tribal storyteller. And the stories that I tell have been passed down to me from generation to generation to generation. And I would like to share some of those with you. I'm going to back up a little bit because Sagamore does want me to say that. He meant to say Wachusett is the mountain of our future. And let me tell you why it is Wachusett, because he never told you the prophecy. The prophecy of, I guess he alluded to the prophecy of the white buffalo for the western tribes. Our prophecy is that our people would come back together and they would become strong and powerful and one again. And that would happen when Mount Wachusett was lit at night. And no one ever knew what that meant. But all of a suddenly, they had night skiing at Mount Wachusett. And the mountain lit up at night. And the mountain is still lit up at night. So our prophecy has come to pass. And so our ancestors didn't know what that meant, but we got to see the fulfillment of the prophecy. So it is Mount Wachusett. That is the mountain of our future. So those are our three mountains, Patumtuk, Monadnock, and Wachusett. So I'm going to back up because you not being American Indian might not know how we all got here, because, you know, we weren't all here on this earth as we know it now. So many, many moons ago, everyone lived up in the sky. And below was just water, where all the water creatures dwelled. And one day, the sky chief, he pulled up the tree, the great big tree of life, from out of the sky, and he looked down, and he said, "Oh my." And he called Sky Queen to come over and to look as well. And when she did, she fell. She fell down, down, down. And all the water creatures, they looked up and they said, "Oh my, look, a star. A star is falling." "Oh no, that's not a star. That's Sky Queen. What shall we do?" And so two swans, they swam together and they spread out their wings and they said, "We know what you can do. You can put her on our backs. We can hold her." And so they did that. And by and by, the two swans said, "Oh my, is she so heavy? We can't hold her forever. What shall we do?" So the great sea turtle, he swam up from beneath and he said, "I know what you can do. You can put her on my back, but I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need for each and every one of you, you need to go down and you need to get a piece of the earth and you need to come and you need to put it on my back." And so all of the water creatures, they all swam down, 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 and they came up with a handful of earth and they put it on the turtle's back. And by, the turtle was holding the entire world on his back. Every so often, the turtle gets tired of holding up this great big earth of ours, and he gives himself a little stretch, and the whole earth shakes. And I know you think it's an earthquake, but don't fear. It's just the turtle, because he's still holding up this earth of ours. Well, by and by, they got the Sky Queen. They put the Sky Queen down on the earth. She had two children after some time. She had two sons. One was very, very good. And the other, well, he was very, very bad. So every time the good son would do something, like he would make a beautiful, bright, sunny day like today, and the bad son would come along and he would cause it to thunder and storm, make it really windy, kind of like Thursday. The good son, he'd make a beautiful field with berries in it that we could eat. And the bad son came along and he put the bullbriars and the prickers and the deer tick, in the field. And it just kept going on and on like that. And poor old mother, she just got so tired of always trying to separate the good from the bad, and she grew old and weary, and one day she died. And when she died, they got her body and they buried it in the earth. From her body grew the potatoes, grew the string beans, grew all the things that we need. Because you see, Mother Earth is good and provides for her children. And that's who we are. But you have to remember that we, as her children, we also have to be good and take care of our Mother Earth, our home.
said that when not Verasano, when Cordelio came and he saw our people, and he said our people were the goodliest people that he saw.
Well, that was Giovanni that said it. That was Giovanni.
So it was Verasano.
That was Verasano.
I had it right the first time. That's why I'm not the historian, but I'm the storyteller. I'm going to tell you a story. So Verasano, he said we were the goodliest people. people. And that reminds me of a story because you know what? The Creator also thought we were a good people. The Pokanoket, he looked down on our people and he said, they're such a good people. And what he did is he sent 3 messengers bearing gifts to give to our people because we were so good. Because we were always thanking him no matter what, we would thank him. And so he sent 3 messengers giving gifts. And they gave these gifts to our people. And they told our people to plant these gifts, to plant them, and that they would multiply, and that we were to share them. And so our people did what they were told from these 3 messengers who said they were sent, from the Creator. And, the messengers, after time, they said, it's time for us to leave. You did what you were told. You were faithful, and now we need to leave. But there were some people who did not believe that these 3 messengers were sent from the Creator. So they said, we want a sign that you were sent from the Creator. So the 3 messengers, they said, we will give you a sign. And so they walked down to the water's edge, right at Pokanoket. If any of you ever go there, you go down to the water's edge. And the 3 messengers, they walked into the water, and they turned to the people to wave, and they turned to stone. Those 3 stones are still there. They're still there if you walk down to the water's edge. We call them the 3 sisters. We call them corn, beans, and squash, because those were the gifts that they gave to our people, and those are the gifts that sustain our people to this day. So, you reminded me of that story. You've caught your breath? Or shall I tell another? You caught your breath? Okay. Here's Sagamore.
So I think I left off, we were talking about Tisquantum, who came with the Sagamore to greet the pilgrims. And of course, the Massasoit Osamequin left him there to teach them how to farm this land, and how to take and fish this land, because we had fish weirs and we had different ways of fishing than the Europeans, that's for sure. And the Massasoit signed a peace treaty with the colonists, which lasted 54 years. And that peace treaty actually is still effective today. And the Massasoit's peace treaty, the Massasoit's ability to keep peace was because of his is because he was leader of all these people here. And, we were not the largest tribe. The Narragansett tribe was actually the largest tribe around here, but we were the largest nation. And that was because the Massasoit was a great warrior, and he amassed a lot of land. So our territories went all the way down the Cape, Martha's Vineyards Island, Elizabeth Island, and all the way up through North Attleboro, which was part of Bristol County, Mass. This here was actually part of Bristol County, Mass. Soames, what you call Soames today, Barrington, Warren, and Bristol, was actually Bristol County, Massachusetts until the year, I think, 1748, when the Plymouth plantations of Massachusetts ceded that land here to Rhode Island. But in the time of the Massasoit, Somerset, which is another name they had for the Pokanoket territory, included Rehoboth, Seekonk, Swansea, North Attleboro, and then all over there in Cumberland and whatnot, which was actually part of Attleboro. Cumberland was part of Attleboro. So that was all Bristol County, Massachusetts at one time. And so the fact that our land went up into the northern territories, because that's where the Nipmunks are located, and as I told you before, the Massasoit was married to the Queen of the Nipmunks. And that's who King Philip's mother was. That's who, I should start with Warm Sutter, because he was the oldest son. And then it was Philip. And then there were the 2 sisters, Amy and Myoni. And then there was Sakanuku, who was the youngest son, who was killed there in Dartmouth with the Sagamore during the King Philip War. And people say, well, how do you know that, well, this is all written in the history. With the internet, the World Wide Web, you can't hide it anymore. So if you go into the Harvard archives, you go into the Brown, they all tell the same story. But not only that, one son of fought Uncas over the Nipmunks in the year 1660. That was the year that his father died. He was on his deathbed. And he went out and he fought Uncas, and he said this to John Eliot, who was the linguist there that wrote the first Bible in our language. He told him that the Nipmunks belong to me. He says, I fought Uncas over them, and that past summer. And the reason why he had to fight Uncas over them, because Uncas was trying to make Nanawanhat, who actually led him back into this area, because the Mohawks ran him out. You hear the last of Mohegans. Well, that's when the Mohawks ran the Mohegans out of New York State. And it was Nanawanhat who gave him permission to settle in Connecticut. And then years later, when he got stronger, he tried to make Nanawanhat pay tribute to him. And so the Massasoit's mother, who was the queen of the Nipmuc, told one son, you go take care of him, I'll take care of your father. And basically he fought, and he said the Nipmunks belong to me, so he must have won that battle. Because that's something, but you can read about that. That's in the history. But you won't read about it here. You have to go into the Brown archives, the Harvard archives, and they all tell the same story. But this stuff is coming out, you can't hide it anymore. And one of the biggest travesties that happened to the Native Americans, they lied about the history. Because if you stop and think about it, Plymouth Plantations was the second settlement. The first settlement in the New World was in Jamestown, Virginia. And that was with the Rappahannock Nation. And they called it the Powhatan Nation. And the leader of that nation was Powhatan, who was Pocahontas' father. All right? And Powhatan kept peace with them for a certain amount of years. And Plymouth Plantations, they kept peace with them for 13 years. And it wasn't until the Massasoit died that Philip went to war to take back what he said you stole from my father. The person who went to war with them in that Powhatan Nation, and he fought them for 13 years, that's where that 13 comes in, was his brother who became the head of that nation. But Powhatan was a title like Massasoit, great, I guess it means great leader, but he was the leader of that whole Powhatan Nation, and what you know today as the Rappahannock tribe. So if it weren't for those two tribes there, there may have not been a United States of America, because if you look at the history and you see who signed their treaties, most of the people that signed that peace treaty with the colonists here were from the Nipmuc Nation. And most of Mequon, those were his brother Quantaquina signed it, but most of those were his cousins and relatives. And it was the Grand Station of Nanawanhat, he signed that, and the chiefs in his nation were his sons, his nephews, and his grandsons. So it's just a little bit of history. And the people say, well, how can you be, Nipmuc, and well, you could be Irish and Italian. But no, people ask me this, so I'm going to tell you. If you stop and think about it, I'll give you a little bit of history about, just how many tribes that I actually belong to. The Massasoit's father was Narragansett. All the chiefs come from Tassatuck. Tassatuck was the chief of the Narragansett, the grand sachem of the Narragansett, who married his son to his daughter because he said there was no one worth being a sachem other than his two kids. And so all the chiefs come down from Tassatuck. And so the Massasoit's father was actually Mika, or Maxano was another name because they changed their names a lot. But he used Mika, he used Maxano. That was Canonicus' brother. So everybody knows who Canonicus was. He was the chief of the... So Canonicus was the older brother, was named after his father. Massasoit's father was Mika, Canonicus' brother. And his mother was King Ninigre's daughter. So she was a princess. That's who his mother and father was. And of course, King Ninigre was the head of the Niantic nation. So when you talk about the Narragansett today, they're really not Narragansett. They're really Niantic Narragansett, because they were sort of wiped out with our people, because at that Great Swamp, there was a lot of Pokanoket there. We had our men, we had our old men, the women and children there, and my Auntie Omi took our people in because that was Philip's cousin. So a lot of people don't know, we was all related. The English did the best that they could, but they didn't really know who was who in the zoo. All right? Well, that's true. It's true. And so basically, that's my the Massasoit's father. Now I told you that the Massasoit was married to the Queen of Nipmuc. So now we got Narragansett, Niantic, you got Nipmuc. Now you talk about Warm Sutter and Poe Metacom or Metacama. They married two sisters, and they were Pocasset. So now I'm Pocasset too, because my great grandmother was King Philip's wife was Wantaluski, and that was Wiedemann, who was the Corsation of the Pocasset. That was her sister. So there was two brothers that married two sisters. Oh yeah, see this, but you don't read about this in history, but that's basically what happened. So now I've got what? Niantic, Narragansett, Pokanoket, Nipmuc, Pocasset. It just goes on and on and on. So basically, and the reason why I'm telling you is because one day a woman said to me, she said, well, I knew Princess Redwing, and she always said she was Narragansett. I said, well, she was Narragansett, but she was also Pokanoket, and she always acknowledged her Pokanoket heritage before she did her Narragansett heritage. All right, and so basically, Princess Redwing, this was our last chief before I became chief. She died in 1988. She was in the 90s. I think you said you knew Princess Redwing, or you remember her?
I've been to functions like this with you, yeah.
Right. So Princess Redwing, she was the first Indian to address the United Nations in 1946. All right, and she was recognized as a squaw sachem of Pokanoket by the chiefs on the East Coast. She was recognized as squaw sachem. There is also a mural downtown Providence. I don't know if you've seen this on the news about an Indian princess. Well, it's a mural. It's about 4 stories high. I think Dave Reed went down and took a picture of that because I saw it on there. It's this woman holding a picture of Princess Redwing, our last chief. We didn't have male chiefs in our tribe because of the fact that if you were male and you say you're Pokanoket, they kill you on sight. So we had a lot of women chiefs. And that is something that even during the time the King Philip War, we had women chiefs. And a lot of them were feared more than the men. Because Wiedemann didn't take any stuff. But she was the squaw sachem of the Pocasset, and there was also a Saskos, who was the chief of the Little Compton tribe, and that was the Massasoit's cousin. And this is how I'll tell you how we're all related. And so basically, she was in Little Compton. That's the one that the Benjamin Church had a thing going on with, and how he sort of took that land over there. But then those deeds are not, they're fraudulent. They produced these deeds after the Philip and Warm Sutter, they were dead when they produced some deeds. So I mean, when you do something like that, it makes you suspect. How could that be legit? The other thing I wanted to tell you about our last chief, and like I said, she was inducted into the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame. Princess Redwing has more accolades behind her name than any chief in the 20th century, or the 19th century, 18th century. You're going to have to go back to the Massasoit to have any Indian in this area that has the accolades that she has behind her name. So I'm just going to give you a few, and this is the act that I had to follow. All right. This is a proclamation by Governor Joseph Garrity, and this was in the year, I can't see, 1978, June 23rd, 1978, he proclaimed this as Princess Redwing Day in the state of Rhode Island. That's a proclamation by J. Joseph Garrity. Princess Redwing, she was a member of the Committees of the United Nations in her infancy, had a recorder for the Voice of America, and that's something that probably some of the young people have never heard of, but it was around when I was a kid. Like I said, I'm closer to 80 than I am to 70. She has recorded for the Voice of America. She was given the name of squaw sachem by the New England Council of Indian Chiefs. She has a doctorate of human affairs for the University of Rhode Island, and she is listed in the International Register of Profiles, 2,000 Notable Americans, the Book of Honor, and the World's Who's Who of Women, Princess Redwing. And like I said, there's a mural downtown Providence. I think it's the beginning of Pine Street. It's on the building. It's about 4 stories high. And it's a woman holding a picture of an Indian princess.
Okay, thank you, Sagamore. You know, Sagamore was talking about the deeds that really aren't deeds. But just to bring you up to, you know, the present, as we said, this is all Pokanoket territory, and you know, I don't know if you were aware, you know, a couple of years ago we did a camp out at Patumtuck, because that is Pokanoket land, and that's one of our sacred mountains, and you know, we really implore your support in helping us get that back from Brown University. They bought that land for $1 from the Heffenreffer family, and you know, it is only right that they give that land back to the people who were originally on that land. And you know, if you can call Brown University and tell them they need to give it back to the Pokanoket people, to the people whose ancestors walked that land, we would really appreciate your help in that, because we're still in that battle, so to speak, with Brown University. So the other thing that you know, Sagamore was talking about was, you know, when the Europeans came over and when they were met by the Massasoit Osamequin with Tisquantum, who helped them out in that first, you know, Thanksgiving that they had. So, you know, that wasn't our first Thanksgiving, and that was not our only Thanksgiving. We had many Thanksgivings, because as I told you, we were a thankful people. We always give thanks to the Creator for the good, for the bad, that we know that He will get us through whatever time we are in. So right about now, every moon actually, we have a Thanksgiving, and right now we're in the strawberry moon. So it's our strawberry moon Thanksgiving. So I'm just going to end by telling you the story of the strawberry moon and why we have that Thanksgiving. So many, many moons ago, there was a boy and a girl, a brother and a sister, and they lived together with their grandmother. And seeing that they were a generation away from her, they were very close together. They did everything together. They worked together. They played together, and they prayed together. But one day, the brother and the sister, they quarreled. They got so angry with each other that they turned their backs one towards the other. And the sister walked off towards the east with the sun at her face, and the brother walked off towards the west with the sun at his back. And by, they felt bad that they had quarreled with each other. And the brother, why, he asked the Creator to turn him around so that he may make his way back and make peace with his sister. And the little girl, the sister, she asked the Creator for the same thing, to turn her around so that she might find her way back to her brother. But she asked for one more thing. She asked that she might have a gift, something to give to him as a sign of peace. So the Creator told her to turn around and to look down. And when she did that, all around her feet in the grass and in the hay were bright red berries, strawberries. And she picked them up as many as she could, and she walked and she made her way back to her brother. And when she saw him, she gave the strawberries to him as a sign of peace. And ever since that day, our people have been given strawberries to each other as a sign of peace. Because you see, in the strawberry moon, it is a time when you forgive everyone for anything they've ever done to you. It's a new beginning. It's a clean slate. You have to have peace in your heart. Now, I'm telling you this for a reason. Because you see, we hand strawberries one to another. We eat them. We sing. We dance. But you can't eat your strawberry if you don't have peace in your heart. Because if you do, you're going to choke on it. I think we're going to have a song now.
You better move around or just in a circle.
You can stay there. They're gonna be moving around. They're gonna be moving around.
questions. Okay. We invite you to go over to the drum.
We use the turtle shell for our calendar. So if you count around the outside, it gives you how many days to move. And then when you count the squares here, that gives you how many moons there are in a year. So that's a calendar. So there's
Yeah, that's why they call it the